Hey there guys, my name is Nick. This is going to be doing a little something different for you. It's an Ancient Warrior deck. It's not competitive yet, but the deck has a lot of interesting things you might want to look at it. So for starters, the deck is based off of sort of ancient Chinese lore and history, which that's kind of the first thing that drew it to me. I love learning. But we're going to start off with 3 of them. They are all a Beast Warrior deck, which you guys know what is coming up next. So we play 3 copies of Ancient Warriors Masterful Sun Mao, whose effect states that while you control another Ancient Warriors monster, your opponent cannot target him for an attack. It could be 2 of him, it could be any other Ancient Warrior plus 1 of him. Your opponent cannot target this guy for an attack until that monster is gone. Then he has, as do the water names, he has an ignition effect and a trigger effect. His ignition effect, I consider him the best because of it requiring the least setup. He says you can send a card from your hand or field to the graveyard to add an Ancient Warriors monster from your deck to your hand except for a copy of himself. And then his trigger effect is if your other Ancient Warrior monster activates its effect, except during damage, target a monster your opponent controls and return it to their hand, which is pretty good. Following that, we play 3 copies of his, if you will, almost brother in some of his effects, which is Ancient Warriors Virtuous Liu Zhan. Liu Zhan's effect, his first effect is just like the first one on Sun Mao. If you control another Ancient Warriors monster, it could even be 2 of himself, opponent cannot target him for an attack. His second effect is, and this is the reason why he's just a little worse than Sun Mao, in my opinion. Your opponent has to control more monsters than you do for the ones that we have currently, for them to be able to activate their effects. So if your opponent controls more monsters than you do with Liu Zhan, you can send a card from your hand or field to the graveyard to add an Ancient Warriors, special summon an Ancient Warriors monster from your deck, and then, except for a copy of himself. And then when an attack is declared involving another Ancient Warrior monster you control, he allows you to draw 1 card. And those last 2 effects are also a once per turn per name. And then we play 3 copies of Ancient Warriors Graceful Xugong. So what he does, this is kind of why the other water names aren't as good as some of the other cards in the deck, some of the win ones in particular, depending on your setup, of course. But he allows you to target a continuous spell or trap card you control and send that to your graveyard, and then he allows you to search for an Ancient Warrior spell or trap card with a different name. And then he has a trigger effect of where if another Ancient Warrior activates its effect, you can target a monster your opponent controls and negate its effect until the end of this turn. Also 3 of, because we like saying our back row. And then the last name that we play 3 of is Ancient Warriors Loyal Guanyin. This deck is built to go second, and he is, I'd say, in some cases better than Pankratops. So if your opponent's the one who controls a monster, you can special summon him from your hand, and then your opponent cannot target your other Ancient Warriors monsters that you control with card effects. And then if your opponent happens to control more monsters than you do, you can target a monster your opponent controls and destroy it. And then you can only use that effect of him once per turn, but unlike Pankratops, if, say, your opponent hits him with an ogre, if you have another one in hand, after your destruction has resolved, you can always just summon him, another copy from hand, because you'll still control, monsters at that point. And then for the only monster we play 2 of, we play 2 copies of Ancient Warriors Valiant Zongdi. So he's pretty beefy. He does help with OTKs. So what he does is he does gain 300 attack for each monster your opponent controls during your turn only as a continuous effect. And then to summon him, if you control 2 or more Ancient Warrior monsters, you can special summon him from your hand, so kind of like the Great Shogun Xian. And then if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can activate his effect to allow him to attack twice, which again would trigger your water names. And then speaking of, we run 1 of this last water name here, which is Ancient Warriors Eccentric Liu Zhan, or Liu Jing, I'm sorry. And he allows you to target a continuous spell or trap you control, send it to the grave, and if you do, add an Ancient Warriors continuous spell or trap card with a different name from your grave to your hand. That's why he's only in one of us, because it takes a lot of setup. But he's still in aim, and his last effect is his trigger effect is if your opponent activates, or if your opponent specials, or your Ancient Warriors activates its effect. Excuse me again. He allows you to MST. And then the last three monsters that we play are, of course, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. And then for spell lineup, 3 copies of Ancient Warrior Saga, 3 visits. So what 3 visits does is, during your main phase, if you normally special an Ancient Warrior's monster or monsters, you can target one of them and add an Ancient Warrior with a different name from your deck to your hand. If it's sent to your graveyard, you can special, from the spell and trap zone to your graveyard, I should state. If this card is sent that way, you can special an Ancient Warrior's monster from your hand. You can only use each of those effects once per turn, and it does send itself to the graveyard during your second standby phase after you activate it. And then the other Ancient Warrior spell that we have right now, we play 1 copy of Ancient Warrior Saga Sunliu Alliance. This card isn't bad per se, it just doesn't grant you any advantage on its own. So if you control 2 Ancient Warriors with different attributes or more, so if you have 3, which we are getting Fire and Eternity Code, you can declare 1 attribute, and your opponent's monsters that are currently on the field with an attribute cannot activate their effects. So if you have 1 wind, 1 water, your opponent has, say, Borreload, you call Dark, that Borreload cannot drop by 5 for the rest of that turn. And then if either your opponent specials a monster or you activate an Ancient Warrior's monster's effect, you can have all of your Ancient Warrior monsters gain 500 attack, or 300 attack for each Ancient Warrior monster that you currently control. So if you have 3, they're all gaining 9. If you have 4, they're all gaining 12. Which is a lot. For the rest of the spells, this is a Beast Warrior deck. We play 3 Tenki. We don't have a crazy amount of inherent special summons in the deck. We do like an extra normal summon. So we play 3 Tensu. They both give you the extra 100 attack as well, which is never a bad thing, honestly. And then we don't like our opponent's hand traps, so we play 3 Called by the Grave. Last 3 more spells we play are Hey Trunade, because we don't like our opponent to have set surprise cards for us. And then the last spell we'll play is a copy of Monster Reborn, because, well, we all know why. And then for traps, the 1 Ancient Warrior trap that they have that's been announced that we play 1 copy of Ancient Warrior Saga, Defense of Changban. So it's useful going first because you can use Xugong to set it. And the reason why this card is a good card, even though we don't have a way to have it immediately going second right now, is if an Ancient Warrior monster battles, it gives them the Armadius. Cool. But then at the start of your opponent's battle phase, you can send it while it's face up to the graveyard, and they can't attack any Ancient Warrior monster you control for the rest of the turn. And then if your opponent's monster declares an attack at a later turn while it's in your graveyard, you can banish this from your grave as cost and special an Ancient Warrior monster from the deck. And then the last 3 cards in the deck, of course, we play 3 Infinite Impermanences. That's the main, it's 40 cards. For the extra deck, we play 2 copies of Firefighting Darumidal. So this card requires 2 Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monsters. He gains 100 attack for each of those types of monster on the field. And then once per turn, he allows you to send or destroy a spell or trap on either player's field after you target them. And then if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can target a Beast Warrior that is banished in your graveyard, or one of the other 2 types, of course, and add it to your hand. Then the 1 Decode Talker, he is a Link 3 that gets bigger, and he doesn't lock your monsters out of being able to attack like Aquamax does. And then we play the full-on Boral family. Boral Link family, I should say. Boral Sword helps in OTKing, but you don't necessarily always need to make him. Borreload is how you beat Altergeists. Boral Guard, the reason why I'm playing the 1 Boral Guard in here, he can send the continuous stuff you have to your graveyard to revive monsters, which is actually obviously very useful in this deck. It does help you Recur some monster advantage, and then, getting your send effects off is always a good thing. And then that's it for links we play. For Xyz, I kind of built my deck around resource denial for my opponent. So I do play Silent Honor Arc, Redoer, and for the other resource denial card, I actually play, the other two I should say, I play Eccentric Mountain Smasher. If it kills something, it makes that monster its material. Which that's really just all you need to hear, really. It does have an effect to detach material to have itself gain 1,000 for both stats permanently. Also very useful, and it is a generic rank 7. And then the other sort of resource denial card I play is number 76, Harmonizer Gradiel. She is actually a card people should be paying more attention to. So she, attribute is also treated as the attribute of the monsters under her. She cannot be destroyed by the battle or card effect of a monster with the same attribute that activates. And then as a quick effect, she allows you to target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and then detach material from her. And if you've detached that material, then you attach your opponent's monster to her. And that, again, that's a quick effect. It can even happen during the battle phase. So if your opponent's going, declaring an attack with a fire and you just got the 2 winds under her, well, ta-da. The other Xyz we play, Abyss Dweller for Graveyard, Tornado Dragon for back row, Tiger King, setting the back row, being able to field negate, and if you have money for an eagle, or if you have an eagle, I would actually also recommend grabbing an eagle for him. Because you can use him in that, to make eagle and then just get 2 free specials from your deck, which is lovely. The last couple of cards we play are Waking Targets, 1 Ultimate Falcon, and 1 Last Warrior. So those are kind of self-explanatory. And lastly, for the side deck, we do play 3 Ghost Ogre. Because it helps get rid of pesky things like Diagram. Droll and Lock helps stop opponents from attacking. Twin Twisters, back row hate, Waking the Dragon for going first, and then 3 Royal Decree in case you find yourself up against Altergeists. The deck does also have some future support that's been announced. We're looking at a new Wind, which lets us go first. It summons itself if it's added by the effect of an Ancient Warrior card. And the effects it has are, if your opponent activates a spell or trap card, you can send a continuous to your graveyard to negate that effect. And then if your opponent activates a monster effect while you control Liu Zhan specifically, he allows you to send a continuous control to negate that. We are getting a new continuous spell as well. 1,000 Arrows. That one allows you to slice 2 monsters' attack in half, and then after you've done that effect, if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, or actually to the graveyard, as far as current rulings and statements have said, while you control Ancient Warriors of 2 separate attributes, you can then place an Ancient Warrior spell or trap card face up from your deck, which is both kind of how I was mentioning earlier with the 3 visits activating and with the defensive Changban being able to be placed face up from hand or deck is actually huge. And then the other remaining cards that we're getting 3 fire monsters whom all have varying effects that are related to your opponent's, mainly related to your opponent's cards being destroyed. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the level 1 or level 4 fire one, it specials himself, or if he's on the field for sure. And then if your opponent's card is destroyed, you can destroy another one. Kind of just helps clear out your back row. The 6 that we're getting, that's also a fire. The big thing with it is your Ancient Warriors can't be destroyed by card effects. And then the level 8 saves them from battle, as well as, they also have their other ways of getting you more advantage, varyingly. And then the last 2 cards, which are actually definitely the biggest deal. They come out in the fall set, the Duelist end of name set. Those being a new continuous that his name is likely to change, but the effect it has is you flip a coin during your main phase. If it's heads, you send it to the graveyard, and if it's sent to your graveyard, for the rest of the turn, all of your Ancient Warriors monsters' effects can't be responded to. And then if they declare an attack, you can destroy an opponent's monster, or card, excuse me, target and destroy it, but it doesn't target. Or it does, even if it does target, they still can't respond. And then the other thing we're getting is a Link 2. On the Link 2, on its Link Summon, you add any Ancient Warrior card from your deck to your hand. And then they all gain 500. And it does have, probably one of the best things in there is a quick effect to send a continuous you control to target and bounce an opponent's monster. Other options you could play in the deck, I don't have them on me, but as some ideas, you can run, in the extra deck, you could probably cut the Raid Raptor or the Last Warrior, dealer's choice in that case, for a copy of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Swan, who is sort of he's a fusion that is a Trident, and then cut one of the Daruma dolls currently for Fire Fist Eagle. So if you have, we'll say the two level 4 Ancient Warriors and a Zhongdi, you'll put those on your board. You'll make your Tiger King, who will then set, and you also need this card for it, InGen, which is a fusion spell. If you're going first, you can use Shinto instead. I'm more partial personally to the InGen just because it gives you just a bit more to work with. So then you'll link away the Zhongdi and the Tiger King to summon your Eagle. If you want to, you can detach from the Tiger King as well to just turn off your opponent's board for till the end of the next turn. Otherwise, so you summon out the you summon out the Eagle. Since Tiger King has now hit your graveyard, he would make you have to send 3 fire formation continuous from your field or hand to grave to summon out 2 level 4 Beast Warriors with the same attack. However, Eagle says that you don't pay the cost, so you would just summon out the 2 names with the same attack, and then you can use your InGen, which is the continuous that you hopefully set off him, to use those monsters as fusion materials and summon out your Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Swan. And because of Eagle, during the battle phase, Swan can just pop a card and your opponent you don't even pay the cost for it. If they say impermanence Eagle for that effect, when you go to try and pop, funny enough, you just send the InGen and you just get to put back your Tiger King. Any other comments or anything you might have, put them in the description. Otherwise, this is Nick Allen signing out.